Irises are a really great plant to have in our flower beds. They come in multiple colors. They're really bright and pretty. You may not be able to find a lot of different irises at the store in the spring to plant. A lot of folks, what they'll do, because they're so easy to grow and transplant, when it comes time to dividing them out and retransplanting them, people share them. And that's how I've got my irises. I didn't buy any. I've been able to get them from other folks that are like, hey, I have to divide my plants. Can I do that? Irises are easy to grow. They do need 8 hours of direct sunlight. So if you've got them in a location where my irises are, the shade is starting to creep in, I'm going to have to move them if I want to make sure that they still grow and produce beautiful blooms and colors. They do need that direct sunlight. They actually can be transplanted at about any time after the blooms fade. However, it's best to do that between mid-August to October, because we really want to make sure that we get those leaves, the blades, to get as much sun as they can get for photosynthesizing, to produce energy, to push it back down into the roots of the plant for the growth for next year. So that's one reason why you probably want to wait a little bit longer into late summer and to early fall. And I don't know about you, but this is one of my favorite ones here. I love that coloration. So the best way to do that is to actually dig up the clump or a grouping of them and try to shake off as much of the soil as you can so that you can see where the roots are actually exposed. And then you're going to see the rhizome. The rhizome is actually an underground modified stem. And so we don't think of it as a modified stem. So we call it a rhizome. And a lot of folks think that it's actually a root, when in reality, these all here are going to be the roots. This over here, as you can see, these pieces are actually the rhizome. So what you want to do is you can take a scissors or a real sharp knife and cut the rhizomes, but you need to make sure that you keep what they call a fan. And a fan is going to be these blades here, the leaves of the iris itself. And so generally what will happen is you can divide them between, so you can see 3 or 4 different ones here that each have its own fan. And then notice also what they do is they cut these fans where they cut them down, those blades down. So there's still some growth on there. But the reason for cutting that is that they're probably going to need a lot of moisture to continue to have that growth of the green. And if you cut that off, they may not require as many nutrients and as much water for that. So the transplanting that needs to take place for that plant focuses on the transplanting instead of continuing to grow those blades or that fan the leaves. Some other things to think about is that they are a shallow planted type of a crop. So we want to make sure that we expose the top of the rhizome to at least about a third of that rhizome itself in the soil. So you see some of it in the soil and some of it above the soil. And it's important for the spacing to be about 12 to 24 inches apart because it grows really nice and it spreads really nice. You want to make sure that you water it immediately after you plant it, because just like any kind of a transplant, we always want to make sure we water it in. And that's the same when we're dividing our irises. Now, if you want something that's going to have color really quickly, instead of taking its time to fill out at the 12 to 24 inches apart, you can take those rhizomes and plant them closer together, but it just means you're going to have to divide them sooner rather than later because they're going to really fill out a whole lot.